Khamzat Chimaev will be a terrible UFC champion. But before I get into that, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe as I have brand new videos every single week. But before I actually get into this though, and before people start crying like little bitches, yes, Khamzat will be an awful champion, but I must preface that I love watching Khamzat fight. I was all aboard the Khamzat Express. When he first broke into the UFC, he was tearing through people like a bull in a china shop. 3 fights in a couple of months and a second 17 KO against Mershat, and let's not forget his domination over Li Jingliang. He was the next big thing, and we all thought he was going to be a champion one day, me included, but it all went tits up for him. And with UFC 319 just round the corner, there's a really good chance that he'll become champion. And as much as I love watching Khamzat fight, he will make an awful champion. Since his UFC debut back in 2020, he's had 14 fights booked and only 8 of them have come to fruition. That's what, 57% success rate? Almost half of his fights have been cancelled. That's not just bad luck, that's a fucking curse. He was meant to fight Leon Edwards 3 times. Every single time was cancelled. He caught COVID, he retired for a bit because his lungs were knackered. Then UFC 279, there was a massive disaster when he was meant to fight Nate Diaz and he missed weight by 7.5 pounds. That's not even close. That's a couple of kebabs the night before close. But honestly, jokes aside, there was rumours that fans saw him eating pizza and drinking fizzy pop the night before. It's just not good enough. And let's not forget, if he hadn't have cheated with the old towel trick, he probably would have missed weight when he fought Li Jingliang, bringing that success rate even lower. Then most recently, he pulled out with an illness when he was first matched up against Robert Whittaker, another fight binned. And of course, it's not his fault that he gets sicker than a Victorian chimney sweep with black lung, but this is a physical sport and it's a big factor, and it's becoming a huge problem. You cannot trust this man to turn up on fight nights. But to make things even worse for him, there's more than just his physical issues, and that's because of his best mate Kadyrov, the Chechen dictator with more human rights abuses than I've had cold pints, and I've had a fucking lot. Again, it's not his fault though. But what's he supposed to do? If a crazed dictator tells you you have to let his son beat you up, you got to do it. But hanging around and taking selfies with a Bond villain is not a good look. And because of all that, he's had visa issues worldwide. And yeah, fine, he seems to have got it sorted out for UFC 319, but this could be taken away at any point. He could be easily barred from the US again, and we don't even know what other countries he can and cannot fight in. What kind of world champion cannot fight around the world? It stops being a world title and becomes a national championship, the Abu Dhabi Invitational. Imagine, right? The UFC is trying to headline Madison Square Garden with Khamzat as the main event, only for it to get canned because he can't get through customs, or he spends another 6 months sat in his ass because there's nowhere he can physically fight. It's just not good enough, and that's the ugly truth. Khamzat as a champion is utter chaos and cannot be trusted. Missed weight, pulled out, got some dodgy pals, visa dramas, the lot. You cannot build a division around that. You cannot rely on him, and as a champion, he'd be a walking disaster. The middle division would be an utter shit show. And look, when Khamzat fights, I'm glued, but he's a liability. As a fighter, I love him. As a champion, no thanks. But what do you reckon? Am I being a bit harsh, or am I right? Is Khamzat one more way in from turning the UFC into a circus? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. If you can like, comment and subscribe, it really does help the channel out.